Peace and much love, and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Minister Sun One. Let us welcome our acronologist, Minister G. Simone.
Hip hip.
Hop hop.
How's it going?
Peace. Good. How are you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And I just want to say some thank yous and make an announcement, and then we're going to go right over into the teacher.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am the acronologist and Minister G. Simone. The Temple of Hip Hop is a ministry, archive, school, and society that approaches hip hop as a divinely inspired global culture for peace and prosperity. So thank you all for being here. And I just want to say thank you so much that we so much enjoyed Hip Hop Appreciation Week together. I mean, the sharing, the getting to know each other, meeting for the first time, some of us in person. It was really, truly, truly a wonderful week. So we're looking forward to next year. And we don't know if we're going to do it in LA, we're going to do it in Atlanta or New York again, but get ready for announcements for next Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Probably in January, we'll start announcing what we're going to be doing. So I want to say a thank you to so many. So bear with me. I want to thank Grandmaster Kaz, Lady Cora, Rocky and Kim Bucano, Essex County Commissioner President Wayne Richardson, who awarded the B-Boys. We had Pop Master Fables there, Deuce Martinez, the members of the Dynamic Rocker Breakers, Deuce Spider and the Airborne Dancers. We also had DJ Tony Tone, DJ Hollywood. We'd like to thank Gloria from Midi Baraka's office. That's the deputy mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Lionel from Essex Community College. Him and his team did a wonderful job. We streamed on his platform as well, so you can look out for that. We'd like to thank John and Miss Gloria over at the birthplace of hip hop, 1520 Cedric Avenue in the Bronx. We'd like to thank the Mitchell Hotel in Fort Lee, New Jersey, who hosted us. Wonderful. It was wonderful. The rooms were wonderful. The courtesy was wonderful. We had a great time there. Also, Dante's restaurant in Leon, New Jersey. That was wonderful as well. The meal was good. The atmosphere was good, and we had such a good time. There's so much going on that we are going to, that you guys should be looking out for coming soon. We have the 50th anniversary of hip hop in 2023. We have a documentary coming out on the UN, what we did for to celebrate and to put the Declaration of Peace together at the UN. So we have a bunch of stuff we're working on. I'd also like to shout out Travis One, who helped and assisted us with the crystal presentation. Also Kate and Desire and Lifted and Joseph and William and everyone who helped out, and Time and Isaac and everyone that was there helping us out. And also Pascal, let me shout you out as well. But before we go into the teacher, I'd just like to say, I hope you all have your crystals and you've gotten home and you've charged them up and you put love and good energy on them. So when we get together again, we'll recharge them once again. So let me bring the teacher. Today, we are going to be reading the gospel at page 520, paragraph 143. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the new people listening. Thank you for everyone who is already down with us. And we look forward to grouping together again and celebrating hip hop. Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, Simone, that was hot. Shout out to everybody. And you know what it is. Simone already started the actual shout outs. I'm not going to go through mine. Actually, you know what? I need that light. Let's get that light going. We as you guys know, we're still buzzing over Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And it's been an exciting week for us because we're also planning to come to California. We did our East Coast thing, so now we're going to do our West Coast thing. And the West Coast thing is always good. I love being on the West, not just California, but Vegas, Colorado, the mountains of Colorado as well, Arizona, New Mexico. Shout out to Albuquerque out there. Really great places to be, especially during times. You know, the East Coast can get stressful. The East Coast is more people on the East Coast, traffic, this kind of thing. when you get out to further out west where the mountains are, and those that live there probably know this already, but there is a sense of ease, there is a sense of peace when the skies are mostly always blue and the sun is always blazing, and you can see 30 and 40 and 50 miles ahead of you, no obstructions to your vision. This is something to think about, and I guess I'm starting this lesson this week off with this because too often we forget, if you're born in prison is all you know, and this is the point. If you're born in a hospital, the hospital is all you know. And so when you're born in places like New York or Philadelphia, Chicago, big cities, bustling cities, East Coast cities, you kind of don't realize the amount of noise pollution you're getting every day, the amount of air pollution you're getting every day, the amount of stress you have to endure every day, just driving and the traffic and this, that, and the other. You're jerking, you're stopping, you're jerking. Sometimes, you grow up in that, you just get used to it. It's my life, it's where I live. What are you complaining about? Until you go to other places in the world and in the country. You go to other places, even in the United States, and you say, wow, people are living completely different than how I'm living or how I'm experiencing life. And if you're a person like me that likes to experience life, you find yourself moving around, traveling to those choice places on the earth that give you the peace, that give you knowledge. Even certain places you get real knowledge jumping off like that. So I start there because, again, we're still buzzing on Hip Hop Appreciation Week, and the whole idea. I mean, I was just thinking just now of the dinner with Hollywood and some of what he dropped, and not just his knowledge, but his attitude. And let me just recap and say that, you guys heard me say it throughout the week when we were there, that don't just take in the knowledge, but take in these people's attitudes. Take in, their likes, their dislikes, their preferences. This too is part of your teaching script. This too also unites you, excuse me. This too also unites you with like when you're teaching culture, you get that extra piece. Sure, you can say 1973, da 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 da, but you get this extra piece and say, well, when I was talking to dude, he was sounding like, and the tone of the voice, and this is the part of the culture you can't transfer in a book. This is the part of the culture where you had to actually be there to take that in. And these opportunities are not going to last. We are the first of our kind. So keep that in mind as well. When we're gone from this material plane, we will, oh, great, I got some light. That goes to the wall, I guess. And it moves back, I guess, over here, something like that. No, the regular way. Yeah. Excuse me, y'all. Sorry about that. It's getting this light together. Yeah, I guess that's cool. Yeah, something like that. So look, not, and like I said, not to recap, but your teaching script is very important, and the tone and the Tony tone, the tone of the voice and the likes and the dislikes, and that's the culture. That's the piece that you cannot transfer in a book. That's the piece that, when you're standing in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, you guys, those that came to the Bronx, you actually was in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. Everybody talks about it. Everybody looks at the flyer. Everyone refers to it, but no one actually was there. And not no one. We were there with Grandmaster Caz, and others have gone there as well. We're not the only ones who have been in there. Throughout the years, many people have gone through 1520. But as scholars, as book writers, as teachers of others, you actually was at the birthplace of hip hop. And I was there with you. And we all learned from Grandmaster Caz in the building itself. We walked out, Popmaster Fables hit us with another piece. You saw it was Essex County. The Breakers spoke up a nice history. What's the group? Rockers. Come on, help me. What is it? I can't remember the name. This is blank now because I got Rock Steady in my head. Dynamic Breakers, right? Dynamic Breakers, who were originally the Dynamic Rockers. That was dope. How they talked about the Boogaloo being on the West Coast and Electric Boogaloo being West Coast and Electric Boogie being East Coast, simply because of an accent change. This is amazing stuff. But we went through it. And my point is that make sure you get the culture as well as the dates, the names, the places, the this, but also see how dudes acted. See how dudes, that thing. Okay, so before we start, I got a few things to go over before we start our reading. The first thing I want to talk about, well, first of all, you know what? Let me get a few of these books out the way. I thought I would just show you these books real quick because I was going through them myself and got fascinated. I was going through them myself and getting fascinated, like crazy. But I didn't finish them all either. Let me start with this one. Oh, you see that? This is hot. If you could get this book, I suggest you get it. They kind of got every real dude in the spot with a bio right there. This is Cornbread, supposed to be the first graffiti writer in the sense of how we do it. Cornbread out of Philadelphia. But they got hundreds of people, hundreds of artists. Here's the famous Cap. They got Cap in here. Cap won the Bronx. You can see his work in Wild Style. And even here, he was mad. He said, man, they painted me like a villain. But this book is dope. I was just trying to find two more pieces here, but they got the originals, like Is the Wiz. Yeah, we grew up on this dude. Oh, look at this dude right here. Is the Wiz, and they give you a little bit of his history, and that's what I like about it. It's like bios of everybody in here. Very interesting. Like here, they got the Graffiti Hall of Fame right there. When we was in New York, we didn't do the Graffiti Hall of Fame. I specifically didn't because it was unnecessary, and our theme was breaking, not necessarily graffiti. So to go all the way to 116th Street and do that, we'll save that for an actual another time. But this is the Graffiti Hall of Fame, and so on. And this is something also. Let me just put this up for you real quick. You see this, right? You see that wall, that handball court wall with all those names on it? That's a really famous wall because a lot of those names are the originators, the 70s graffiti writers. Before it got all fly and all of that, and dudes was just getting up. Cornbread days. The dude Cornbread I just showed you. Phase 2. Everybody, I don't start name dropping, but they're all in here. This here, look, Eva 62, Barbara 62. These are legendary names in graffiti. Comet, you know what I'm saying? Blade, Lee. These. So I'm just looking here. It says The Faith of Graffiti as well. Norman Mailer, he wrote a book called The Faith of Graffiti, one of the earliest writings on graffiti, and it was a really good book. Actually, I'm gonna order myself a copy. I had it, but storage and all this stuff. I have it, but it's not in my immediate grasp. I have to order another one. The reason I mention that is because things like this, Faith of Graffiti, all the graffiti legends, all of this is right here. And this was dope. Right here, put together by Jason Eldon, forward by Andrew Zephyr. You know what I'm saying? Zephyr is another one. You know, legendary artist in the game, laid down the staple for graffiti art. I was going through this and felt that you should go through it too. Here's another one. Just want to point this out. Graffiti World, street art from 5 continents. And what's dope about this book is that it gives you the history of graffiti. And you could debate it, of course. It's pretty surface, but they get down. This piece right here. You see, it says the worldwide history of graffiti. Now, of course, you can't get a worldwide history of graffiti in 2 pages, but the way they lay you down gives you a start conversation. It gives you a foundational conversation by which to come from, where you don't sound stupid, where you don't sound uninformed. Love it. Worldwide graffiti says, and then of course they go through graffiti around the world. This is more of a modern, take, and they put artists up, but artists from around the world. They're doing whole continents, the best from whole continents. And I was trying to find some stuff, but it's not much here. It's a different kind of art. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm looking here, but there's nowhere really. See, like, look, hold on. Let me just say, here's Great and Bates. Okay. Right. This is around the globe. And then they go over to like this. You see, like that. And it's like, you get into art like Rev and Cost art, but this is not it. This is somebody else. You see, this is like from around the world. People that took that style that originated in Philly and New York, and now it's gone global. And this is, when you're studying hip hop, again, this is where you have to be. You have to have an extensive knowledge of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. You have to have extended knowledge. So I was doing my graffiti thing and ran across this. This is global graffiti, which is really global hip hop in a graffiti interpretation. And of course, this is old school, giving you histories and the who did what when in graffiti. This book is dope. Let me throw this one up as well. Whip, hey, Ray Quizzle. This is my dude right here, Raekwon from Staircase to Stage. And what's interesting is that the reason I'm showing you this, the story of Raekwon and the Wu-Tang Clan. Some of this, I was reading through some of this. I didn't get through the whole thing yet because I was interrupted by another book, which I'm going to pull up in a minute. But Raekwon, the reason you want books like this is because this is a hip hopper in his own words. And as we get older, hip hoppers are writing books. They're writing their biographies. They're writing stories. They're writing novels, scripts. You want to know what's going on. You want to get that. When a new hip hopper writes a book, and not just a rapper, but somebody who participated in the culture, that's the book you want to get. Now, Raekwon is official hip hop, and we know it. This dude right here, and all of the Wu-Tang Clan as well, they're living a certain level of hip hop that's not only authentic, but it's not really talked about either. And that's why this book is of great importance. He talks about a slice of hip hop that we don't really get to hear about much, like how Slick Rick influenced them, influenced the whole Wu-Tang. And in this case, just influenced Raekwon, but he's talking about himself and You God and others and how they met and how they got together and all this type of stuff, and who was the influences, why they were the influences. Raekwon talks about the Jamaicans coming in to his neighborhood and selling weed and all types of stuff, and the styles that they had, the gold tooth. They was like, that was amazing. All of that, Raekwon talks about it here, and that's why it's interesting to get his word. You know, get a every time a hip hopper writes a book in their own voice, that's what you want to go get as a teacher, as a scholar. You want to just hear from my man from his own book, not what somebody said about him or reviewed his book or whatever. No, let's get the book and read what Raekwon said about himself as well. Another thing too is that these are organized thoughts as well. You know, he had to wait years to do this. He's a man now, you know what I'm saying? And an older man now. When he's writing down through his memory and he's organizing his thoughts, you know, that's also good. Some people don't like that because they say, oh, it's not, you know, it's official. It's not, well, they want to use the word objective. It's not objective, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be objective. When you're dealing with culture, you want subjectivity. When you're dealing with culture, you want to hear from the heart. And even if a dude embellishes his story or, you know, tell lies in his story, and I'm not suggesting at all that that's what Raekwon or anybody is doing. But as a recorder of hip hop's history, I've been lied to by you know, major artists. Dude's been grandizing it. I did it all. And, you know, you got to really, you know, match the evidence up against what they're saying. And some turn out to be true and others turn out to be not so true. And so you want to get books like this so that you can remain accurate. Again, that's what this is. I'm going to continue reading this. Shout out to Raekwon. Last but not least, what? Gabriel Patterson reminding me of Mo. I was interrupted. This is what interrupted me from Raekwon. I got this during Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Raekwon hit me. Gabriel hit me with this. And I said, let me just read a little bit, see what my dude talking about, see what it is. So the book is dedicated to his friend. Matter of fact, his friend is in here somewhere. Hold up, it's reminding me of Mo. Yeah, I was reading through this, and it was a forward, I think. Yeah, here we go. Let me just read this to you, because as I opened the book and started reading, this is what grabbed me, and it's the author's note. It's the first page, the first writing of the book itself. This book is called Reminding Me of Mo. So it says, this book was made in honor, this book was made to honor the life of my friend, Geronimo Mestas. I hope I'm saying that right. It is not intended to propagate violence nor revise the past. It is not meant to guilt any individual or entity. It is a living document, testament, and sacrament. It is both my recollection of the past and interpretation of the facts, and is not meant to be unequivocal or devout, although by its very nature, it is most certainly unequivocal and devout. Throughout the book, hip hop is spelled with capital letters because it is the name of our culture. Hip means to know, hop means to move. Thus, we know why we move. Such is the case of the no more violence movement, which is interesting. No more, like no more violence, but no more is the word, is a whole another thing, but the No More Violence movement, names have been changed to protect identities. So then Gabriel then goes on to write his book about a story about his recollection of growing up in the time, and I guess he's again, it was a tribute to his man Mo, and but what grabbed me was that author's note, and Gabriel, thank you for that, because that's the propagation of our knowledge. Here we have a member of the Temple of Hip Hop who was at the Hip Hop Appreciation Week festivities in New York, and wrote a book. In his book, he added a piece of our knowledge. For whoever is reading this will get that little piece right there. Oh, wow, okay. You get that little piece right there. This is the job of a hip hop teacher. This is it right here. There was no bells and whistles. And I didn't read the book yet to really see, I don't know if any other knowledge in that regard is mentioned, but at the beginning of the book, author's note, to be dropped in hip means to know in hop movement, and we're going to be spelling hip hop like this. This is one of the earliest, this is one of the earliest manifestations of why we teach hip hop in the way that we do. So that authors and teachers acknowledge the teachings and include it in the education of their students. Why is this important? Because hip is the name of our culture. So at the top, the author says, look, I'm going to be spelling hip hop like this, and here's why. That little piece has nothing to do with the book, has nothing to do with what it is, but you get that little bit of knowledge right there. And imagine if more teachers and authors did the same thing. I'm going to spell hip hop with a capital H because it's the name of our culture. It's the name of my culture. I'm going to spell hip hop, with a capital. I'm going to spell hip hop as one word. You can even break down the three natures of hip hop and say, throughout this document, you're going to be seeing hip hop spelled in a variety of ways. Here's why. That's the dissemination of cultural knowledge. That's the dissemination of it right there. So Gabriel, shout out to you. And congratulations on your book, reminding me of Mo. And shout out, of course, to Mo. That is my book deal. The books that I'm actually looking at right now, thumbing through right now. I thought you guys should take a look at it as well. As I was going through my, I don't have it here with me now. What I'm looking at here is this. I want you to see this. The Universal Hip Hop Museum. You see that? Now, this is just my own personal little copy, but I wrote a pamphlet back in the days, and we're talking about this because we was at the Universal Hip Hop Museum. You guys will remember we were at the construction site, and Rocky and others were telling us about the museum, what it's going to be, and so on. And so as I got there, or during the week, I want to reiterate something I want to say to you guys. So, and I want to show you something as well. But I said to you during the week that the Temple of Hip Hop does have a challenge. And the teacher has a challenge himself. And it's a challenge. It's not evil, it's not wrong, it's not bad, but it's a challenge. And the challenge is that I don't fully agree with the Universal Hip Hop Museum and its approach to hip hop. I think it's exploitative, personally. As the Temple of Hip Hop converged on the Universal Hip Hop Museum and began to question Rocky, we all saw that what the approach of the Universal Hip Hop Museum was going to be toward hip hop. But I also then said at the same time, but here's the challenge. If you're not in the game, you ain't got no voice. This is not about, selling out to have a voice. This is not about compromising yourself to have a voice either. This is about real cultural strategy. And I want to share this with you at the top of our talk because we're going to be reading the movement. So we're in the movement. We're not objectively reading about the movement. You are the continuation of what we're going to be reading today. The continuation of it, if I was to continue this movement, continue this reading, it would lead to Universal Hip Hop Museum and us asking the questions that we did when we were there. You are the movement. You are in the movement. You are subjective to the movement. You are not outside of this. That's why it's important to speak and teach in real time. Now, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, look at the strategy and look at what's happening. I include myself in the Universal Hip Hop Museum. Me and Kaz at 1520, we sat down, Grandmaster Kaz, we sat down a little bit before the teaching started. And Kaz was expressing to me how you don't really, get down with the Universal Hip Hop Museum, and for all the reasons that we've already discussed. And I felt them, and I was saying that, right, I concur, but my strategy is different. And Kaz has the same strategy, but over with XM Satellite. He has a show, Sha Rock, from the Funky 4+1 More on XM Satellite, and it's doing pretty well for them, but it's XM Satellite. And you guys know what the deal is with that with us. And so these challenges, Grandmaster Kaz, I'm sure, is not loyal to XM Satellite, but if he's not in the building, his voice don't even get heard. His voice don't even get heard. He can't make any changes. He can't make any, he's on the outside. So being inside XM Satellite, at least he gets to voice his concerns there. The same thing with me with Universal Hip Hop Museum. I don't necessarily agree, but I got this gospel. And I marked off a piece. I want to, you don't have to go to it, but if you want to go to this real quick, I'm at page 90 of the Gospel of Hip Hop. You don't have to go. It's not part of our session today, but I just want to read you this piece, page 90. This was early on in our reading, but I'm showing you the strategy real quick. Page 90. I'm at paragraph 152. We're talking about property. In a strict legal sense, land is not property, but the subject of property. Okay? The term property, although in common parlance, common speak, talk, use, frequently applied to a tract of land or a chattel, that's what property was. In its legal signification, means only the rights of the owner in relation to it. What is property? Property is rights. It is not the thing itself. Let's go over this one more time. In a strict legal sense, land is not property, but the subject of property. The term property, although in common parlance, frequently applied to a tract of land or chattel, in its legal signification, means only the rights of the owner in relation to it. The rights of your right to use is property. This is important for true hip hop scholars to know, because when seeking to preserve our culture, hip hop, we must also know the legal route of such preservation as it relates to real property. You cannot fully preserve something that you do not actually own. But as we can see, ownership in a legal sense has less to do with what is actually possessed, as it has more to do with one's right to property, one's ability to use what is said to be owned. Use is the real side of property. Professor Brown continues, If property and land consists in certain essential rights and a physical interference with the land substantially subverts one or more of those rights, such interference takes the owner's property. Did you hear that? The interference with your property is what takes your property. When you can't use your own property, that's when it's been taken from you. Not if somebody possesses your property. Now, look at this, okay? If somebody got your stuff, okay, they got your physical stuff. If you can still use it, you still own it. It's when they got your stuff and you can't use it, then you don't own it no more because you can't use it. Use is the ownership, not possession. Possession just satisfies you emotionally. But the real use of that possession is, the real ownership of that possession is the use of it. Swallow that for a hot minute, because it's going to explain also where I'm coming from as a strategy. And of course, these are public teachings. So, I'm revealing this to whoever is interested. And I'm being transparent in this way because we're all studying together. And culture is our point here, that we all become better at our own culture. That's the point. So we don't really agree wholly with the approach that the Universal Hip Hop Museum is having toward hip hop itself and toward the pioneers. But ownership is use. So we showed up at the Universal Hip Hop Museum, okay? The questions that were posed: will the Declaration of Peace be up? Will the gospel be up? What do the pioneers get? Da, 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 da. Believe Rocky took those questions back with him. And you may have changed the course of where the Universal Hip Hop Museum was going, because they were thoroughly impressed too. I will say that. They were thoroughly impressed. KRS-ONE showed up with a gang of 30 people, of 30 students. And they were thoroughly impressed. The Congress, there was government people there, investors were there, Rocky was there, Channel 4 was there, which I'm going to show you something in a few minutes about that. But Channel 4 was there. And they all got to see real hip hop scholars. Several times Rocky referred to you as a scholar because he saw it was real. He saw it was real. You may have changed the course of the museum, so don't judge them too harshly. But our stance is still the same. Until he actually addresses our concerns, it's still the same. But now check out KRS. I'm staying engaged. Why am I staying engaged? Because as long as I'm using, I own. It may appear like you're using me, but in actuality, I'm using you. And here's why. Because if we want the Universal Hip Hop Museum to be led in a certain direction, then we have to lead it. Period. We cannot lead from behind, outside, down the block. We have to be in the museum, talking to the owners and creators of the museum and making our point known to their faces, not online, not over the internet, in your face. This is what we want to talk about. And it was respectful. We clapped Rocky down and the others that were there as well. We thanked them. Some of you took pictures with them. They felt at home, even though the questions were harsh and the conversation was real. They didn't feel disrespected, though. And that's the temple of hip hop. That's the character of our temple. It was real, but it wasn't disrespectful. It was harsh, but we didn't abandon. We reprimanded, we talked, but we stayed respectful and honorable. That's the temple of hip hop. So I read you this piece about property because if you want an institution to go in the direction you think it should go in, you have to lead it yourself. And you don't have to own the institution to lead it. You just have to show up. And not only is that what we did, that's what I did. There was a small coup that went down. I don't know if y'all saw it, but I took control of the press. While I was there, I went upstairs and went down. I took a meeting with Channel 4. I'm going to show y'all that right now. Somebody took it on their phone and sent it to me. It happened in New York after we left. Channel 4 ran the story of the Universal Hip Hop Museum. And they only used me and a couple of other shots. You know, these news programs, they're quick, they go by. But millions of people saw this. Millions of people saw this in New York. And what does it look like? It looks like KRS-ONE is building a museum. And so you could say in one breath, yeah, but you know, KRS-ONE giving his credibility and image over to this that he doesn't really agree with, and we all had the conversation and can see where this thing might be going. You can look at it that way. Or you could say, with all of that, it's better that KRS-ONE is the face of this with others. Really, it's better that the Temple of Hip Hop is the face of this. And I say Temple of Hip Hop because we want to do human resources. We were talking about jobs when we were there. Who's getting hired and how do we know that they're real hip hop? Who trains your staff? This was one of the questions that we asked. Rocky went away and thought about that. And actually, I talked to Pamela French, the woman who was filming everything at the moment. Talked to her. That really stuck with her. And she was saying, you know, there might have to be, the Temple of Hip Hop might have to be the human resources place. We may have to train the Universal Hip Hop Museum to be sure that they understand what hip hop is culturally. We may have to be that teacher to them. Look at the challenge in which we're in. As teachers, that which you don't like or that which you know is wrong, you can't run from. You have to educate it. This is a challenge. This is a challenge because if you just are a regular citizen of the culture, you can critique. You could have an attitude. You could leave. If you're just a citizen, you say, look, I'm down with hip hop and all this is bullshit. I ain't with it. You can leave and you're justified. But as a teacher, when you're confronted with ignorance, you can't run. You're the cure for the ignorance. Okay? When you're a teacher, when the ignorance comes, you got to feed it with knowledge. You can't run. This is the point. So I'm operating on this premise because it's part of me. It's part of my habit. So I operate on that premise that the things that I use, I own. I don't have to own the Universal Hip Hop Museum. I just have to show up as the leader of it. And thus the power. And thus the power. And power for what? Not for my aggrandizement. I have my own institution. It's called the Temple of Hip Hop. That's where I'm at. But we all can see where this thing is going now, can't we? And if we are not at the forefront of it, who else is supposed to be? So we engage. And we don't just say we don't like and we're critiquing everything and mad at everybody. That's not the temple. Perform patience. What we are is engaging. So I want to show you something that shocked me the other day. Where I looked, I was like, yo, these guys is working KRS. And you know, Rocky, that I'm not fully down. I don't even have an official position. I'm called the educational director, but that was 10, 15 years ago when this thing first started. You know, I've done no real work like that other than to write up the pamphlet, Universal Hip Hop Museum. I wrote a pamphlet to try to teach these people musology and stuff. That was 12 some odd years ago. Today, I don't have no official title, but you can't build a museum like this without me or without others, but especially without KRS-ONE. So knowing that, You don't put that in the ego box. We say, yeah, you can't do this without me. No, you think about your culture. You can't do this without me. Let me join in. Let me understand why you're using me to build your museum. Why you're using my image and my credibility to build your museum, which I don't necessarily agree with how you're dealing with it. But when you're a teacher, you have to stay engaged in the face of the ignorance. And so I had to ease back on the commercial. It shocked me at first. I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's, there it is. But then I looked at it again, I was like, but there it is. Because it's all divine guidance too. I didn't plan for this. It's unplanned, this is what they did, what they're doing, so on. But I saw what it looked like. It looked like KRS is building the museum in the Bronx and so on. So I said, you know what, let that rest. Let that go ahead and rest. I don't necessarily agree, but it's publicity. It's the news. It's what it is. It's Hollywood. You're creating images and putting stuff out, making people believe stuff and do all of that. So, okay, I see what you're doing, God. I see the ancestors. I see what you're doing. But you, as the Temple of Hip Hop, who was there talking to Rocky, you got to see the strategy yourself. We have to stay engaged, even though we're dealing with a wild horse. We have to tame this beast, and for the sake of hip hop, and for the success of the museum. Because if the museum is successful, then we're going to be successful within it. And I mean financially, academically, culturally, we will be successful within it. We may not like how it's being formed today, but as long as you're engaged, you can form and morph that manifestation into what you know it's supposed to be, because the truth will prevail. The truth will prevail. Last thing on this as well, before I show you this commercial or this news thing that went out. Last thing on this. This is also the correction of an error. This is also the correction of a mistake that pioneers made in the past. In the past, when we didn't like something, when Herc or Bam, Africa Bambaataa or Grandmaster Flash or others didn't like stuff, they excluded themselves from it. When the record companies first started to sign rappers, many of the originators was like, nah, we're going to get ripped off. Why don't we keep this to ourselves? We're doing good with our tapes. Let's just build from where we are. But again, everybody was just copying the originators, doing it themselves, doing whatever they wanted to do. No order, no laws, no principles, nothing. This is how hip hop starts, in complete chaos. Thus was the environment we was living in. So the founders of hip hop, the originators, the pioneers, they excluded themselves from a lot. They never engaged. They never made films themselves. They never wrote their books. This kind from their own thing, because they said it's all a ripoff, and it is. And it is. And it is. We are the other part of hip hop, KRS-ONE and others, after Sugar Hill, we're the ones who willingly went and got ripped off so that we could be heard. Imagine that. We willingly went and got ripped off so we could be heard. And many of us imitated them, the originators, who didn't get ripped off but was not heard. Now today, the originators are broke. Poor people, not all of them, but most, don't have, hip hop is $1 billion culture. They don't have 1 billion. They don't have 1 million. They don't have 100,000. And that's a shame. You built something worth billions, but worth billions in another culture. Hip hop itself is part of another thing, and I'm trying to bring it up, is that hip hop itself has to build its own wealth within itself. Within itself. These other institutions and so on, you can go to the banking culture and get millions of dollars to build a museum. But hip hop itself internally cannot even afford to build its own museum. Look at this. Look at the poverty of hip hop, which really reflects the poverty of its people. Sure, you could say hip hop is $1 billion culture, but to who? Hip hop is not $1 billion culture to us. We don't have the billion. We don't have the million. And I noticed the era, this started in the early days when we knew that it was a ripoff, that hip hop was being ripped off, that these people were exploiting us. We knew it. But some of us, even though we knew it, still joined in, got the ripoff. But you became a major, mega superstar around the world. Your money's coming in. Now, what was supposed to happen is we were supposed to go back to the pioneers that were imitating and make sure they was good and set up. That did not happen. Everybody took from the pioneers, took from the originators. We heard Grandmaster Caz's famous story with the Sugar Hill Gang and all of that. They took from these people and then turned their back on them. And then the people, these originators who said, I'm not going into no ripped off situation. Then the others who copied them and went into a ripped off situation said, well, it was your choice. You the one who said you didn't want to be down. So why should we have to come back? I worked for this. In fact, I got ripped off for this. Why I got to come back and give you anything? You had the same opportunity I had, but you chose not to join in. Now you're sitting there on the outside with nothing. And it's a tough situation because it's not that the originators don't have nothing. It's that those who imitated them turned their back on them. They supposed to get a lot, but that's not what happened. And so I bring this little piece up because, you know, we're working for the preservation of our culture in real time. We're not reading a book about this. We're engaging the key parts of our culture, the front lines of our culture and its preservation. And that means meeting other cultures and meeting other groups of people who want to exploit your culture and are already exploiting your culture. How do we step up? How do we do it? Well, first, we are a divine organization. So the ancestors are guiding us first and foremost. So you got to see the guidance. That also defines who you are. Secondly, we fight back by understanding that property is use. You don't have to own the Universal Hip Hop Museum to steer it. Thirdly, you know, it was a mistake to not join in. At least I think it was a mistake to not join in when the record companies were doing their thing. I know the moral issue. I know the principle issue. Yes, that still stands. And the originators were right. They were right. But right only in our own culture. It wasn't right in another culture. The entertainment industry culture. That wasn't what was right. Right was we're all going, black, white, don't matter. We're going in here, we get ripped off. What do you think? White artists didn't get ripped off? You don't think Asians didn't? They all got ripped off. Blacks probably got it the worst, but every artist gets ripped off. Okay, in that industry, every artist. Dudes went in and became huge stars. Became huge stars. Speaking of rappers and so on, went in, became huge stars. Now, your founder and teacher, KRS-ONE, just did not feel that way when I was coming up. And that's why, you know, I did it all, you know, with the founders, you know, did it all. Money, anniversaries, tours, shows, this, that, and the other. We just had Tony Tone with us. We just had Grand Wizard Theodore with us. And not the Hip Hop Appreciation Week, on tour with us. Okay. They getting money. We doing our thing. This is what it is. This is where it's always been. This is where it's always been. At least with me. This is the way it's always been. I cannot understand why, if I can receive millions of dollars for my talent, why I can't break off 10,000 or tens of thousands to the originators of that talent. I don't understand the justice in not doing that. So I don't put that on nobody else. I put it on myself, and I put it on you. And we did it, y'all. We did it. Through your membership donations, we fed DJ Hollywood, DJ Barron, Tony Tone, and KRS, and all of you, and everyone else that showed up. But the point is that with our real money, y'all, with our real money, we fed real pioneers. And you know we hooked them up. They got a commission. They got their money too for being there with us. We treated them as scholars and we gave them an honorarium. But more importantly than that, they would have showed up for free. I'll unequivocally say that. These are real dudes, and you saw the realness on them. They were so real that the money was not really the issue. Their voice, being able to speak and say their story to you and to camera and so on, that was the food. That was the real food for them. And then, of course, the real plate that we had in front. That was, all the pioneers eat. But I want to show you the lesson in real time. Be proud of yourself, Temple of Hip Hop. You actually fed the pioneers. Don't slip on that. Don't let that go by you, because we use temple funds for most of this, for most of the dinners and so on. So we use temple funds for that. And that's our donations. That's our money we putting into the temple. And then we used it for, some of it for Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And it went into the mouths of the founders. Literally went into the mouth of the founder. I personally am proud of that. I personally sit back and sleep good at night because I know I did my part to progress a piece of hip hop realistically. So that's my little spew right there. Universal Hip Hop Museum. Let me show you this Channel 4 news piece real quick. Take a look at this and we'll come right back.
KRS-ONE, one of the pioneers of hip-hop, taking in this view and this moment.
I am a poor black kid from the Bronx, okay? We had nothing, and everything that we had was taken.
He grew up just north of here on Sedgwick Avenue, where hip-hop was born at a party back in 1973. Nicknamed the Teacher, he's been preaching the principles of the culture for decades.
This was unimaginable. This is a long-term mission, a longer-term mission, because museums are all about heritage.
The Universal Hip Hop Museum is part of Bronx Point, a massive project along the Harlem River waterfront that's now halfway done. Developed by L&M Development Partners and Type A Projects, it'll include more than 500 affordable housing units and nearly 3 acres of public space. Former Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. supported the project for 10 years and is elated to see it coming to life.
We're going to have a train as a bridge coming over here downstairs. We're going to have a visual, historic timeline, chronologically showing people the beginnings of hip-hop up to today.
Funding for this state-of-the-art educational experience coming from this year's state budget, a big win for Bronx Assembly members.
Other communities are getting stadiums or new airports, and the Bronx is getting a new home for a cultural center that will be, here forever.
Forever preserving the roots of hip hop and helping transfer the words, the stories, and the culture to the next generation.
If hip hop don't teach one thing, it taught that our dreams came true.
The developer says next fall, families will be able to move into all those affordable housing units. Then the Universal Hip Hop Museum will take about a year to build out what it's going to be. So we're still about 2 years away from the historic opening of this museum. In the South Bronx, I'm Jessica Cunnington, News 4 New York.
That's the Channel 4 piece, and also the I just got word that I'm so for some of you out there, well, probably all of you, I'm choppy. My internet connection obviously is choppy here today. I guess it's the weather. Something's going down. It's a nice day today too, but I don't know what's going on. I may have to go to another section of this place and try to get to a different section. Am I still choppy? Is it still the same way? We moved some things around already. Am I still choppy?
You were for a second, but it got better. Or now you're fine.
I'm fine now. Okay. Let's just stay posted then. If I start to get a little choppy, I guess it's the satellite or whatever it is going down. But that was Channel 4. And you can see what it looks like. First look at the Universal Hip Hop Museum, and there's KRS. There's Ruben Diaz. There's this one and that one. And that went out to millions of people in New York. Now, what this does is it gives us, even though I kind of cringe, but it gives us the power to lead. Gives us the power to lead. And I think that went down because of how the Temple of Hip Hop looked. When I was there, they didn't say it was going to be, I'm leading the interview. They didn't even have Rocky in the piece. Okay, they didn't say all that. I think because we showed up in the way in which we showed up, they took us serious as well. Especially Channel 4 took us serious as well because people want the authenticity. They want to go with what's authentic. They're running a story. They don't want people saying, "Well, who's this guy?" Or who that? They want to catch you. Like grab your attention, and not only the celebrity of it all, but also the authenticity that comes with that. They wanted, so that's what it was. But I want you to get this first lesson about property, about use, about ownership, about being on the outside of something, arguing about it and not being engaged, the responsibility of a teacher in front of the ignorance, the responsibility of a culture keeper in front of an exploiter. This is the challenge. And you can't have an emotional outburst. You can't be angry. You can't be bitter. You can't be, these things toward these people who are literally disrespecting your culture or exploiting your culture. You can't look at it that way. You have to look at it from the point of view of a child to an adult or a student to a teacher, not in comparison. And child to adult meaning that the immaturity versus the maturity, or the one who doesn't know versus the one who does, or the one who has an experience and the one who has never experienced. This is what we have to look at this like. Not be confrontational in that sense, but be engaging. There's more power in the engagement than in the fight. Talking to my sister from London, who had her gat out the whole time, and was saying, when do we run up on these people straight up? Because it's clear what's going on. And of course, I had to say to her with my head down, we're not there yet. And we're not. We're not even organized like that yet, in that sense, to really run up. But we don't need to. Even when we get organized, we won't need to. We'll already be steering the process. And that's what you want. You want to steer the process. You want your voice heard. It might not be the only voice. It might not be even the lead voice. But it will be a strong and powerful voice within what's going on. And if we can maintain our integrity and what we're doing, then hip-hop will be okay. Hip-hop will be fine within anybody's institution, because the Temple of Hip Hop is solid within its own institution. So let's now turn to the reading. The reading begins, as Simone told you, at page 520. And we're going to pick up from paragraph 143. Paragraph 143. Just before I start, you know what, Simone? I got this peppermint tea here. I'm trying to drink that. This could come out. Yeah. Is that still? No. You might have to heat it up or something. Sorry about that. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to get that peppermint tea in me real quick. Paragraph 143, page 520. So we got to. I'm sorry. This is I think TC Islam is speaking, and we're continuing. He's talking about the young people and what we got to do for young people. He's talking about creating jobs and programs. This is the intent of hip hop. This is what the movement is. This is the definition of the movement. So we got to rescue our kids with what? This hip hop, kid. You can get paid by doing this, man. Make your own job. And notice how these things are underlined within the gospel as well. I'll read it again. So we got to rescue our kids. That's underlined. With what? This hip hop, kid. Rescuing kids with hip hop. You can, underline, get paid by doing this. That's underlined. You can get paid by doing it. Man. Next underline. Make your own job. These are the intents. This is hip hop's intention. This is what the intent is. We all got together. This is it. We looking at the kids and we saying this is what they need. We need to rescue our kids because we need to rescue our kids with hip hop because first they can get paid with this. Straight up, you can make your own job, and once you can feed yourself, you're not dependent upon the enemies of your culture. Make your own job. You know what I'm saying? And something you love doing. Later in the conversation and after, this is now the gospel speaking, later in the conversation and after much debate and many ideas were returned, the conference toward, let me see that again. Later in the conversation and after much debate and many ideas, we returned the conference toward the, and now the quote, role of being a professional yet still being loyal to the cause of preserving hip hop, which is what the overall question was within the overall overlord question. How do we preserve the culture? The first question I posed was, can you be a professional and be in hip hop? Can you be corporate and be cultural? And so we're working this out right now. And that is role of being a professional yet still being loyal to the cause of preserving hip hop. Can you be corporate and still be hip hop? Still be loyal to the cause of preserving hip hop? I then continued, KRS, I then continued, yeah, I mean, the conversation that we are having here is excellent because it's a lot of vibes, thoughts that are happening now. One thing, let me just reiterate, the original question was, can you be professional and be part of hip hop? Brother here mentioned that define professional. We never really got around to that. But let me throw it on the floor and I say a lot of us and say number one that in one breath being professional is sort of like going through college. It's like, well, just before you get to college, when you're taking the entrance exam, you know what you want to be. You know what you want to do. You're going to fight for this. You're going to fight for that. But then when you actually go through college, when you pick up your degree, you're actually somebody else. My point was or is, can you be a part? Can you be a part? I stopped myself. Can an Africa Bambaataa, can a Kool Herc be A&R at a record company, play that game, and be true to the cause? I'm not saying it can't or can happen. I'm still trying to figure out if it can. And many voices rose up again. A member of Zulu Nation, a chemist, responded to me by saying, quote, you brothers taught us who are right now in college how to do that. this is what was underlined. You taught us that I can be criminal-minded and still make a contribution to my community with my double major in chemistry and biology. You told us that you can go back into the community and have this mind and be a professional and show these young kids, yo, you can do this and you can be that. So we can do that. And anyone who says we can't, you're wrong. The room erupted into applause and many voices trying to make a point. This was a hot issue. Can you be part of this crazy and be down with us? And the Zulu Nation chemists continued. You can't define yourself in some parameters set up by somebody else. You got to define your own self the same way God did. And this is underlined as well. Let me hit you with it again. The Zulu Nation chemist continued. You can't define yourself in some parameters set up by somebody else. You got to define your own self the same way God did. The same way when I was growing up, you know what I'm saying? When I was the smartest kid in the class, everybody was like, yo, Duke, you corny. Man, you whack. Nah, that's not the case. Yo, now underline. I'm going to use my mind to further myself and everyone else. Look at it. These are the actual intentions of hip hop as culture. We're all sitting around confirming the culture. And this is what's being said in the culture. Yo, I'm going to use my mind to further myself and everyone else. And y'all showed me that I can do that. And then Africa Bambaataa said, and the way you can do that is you got to know that you can't let money become your God. Applause. Then I jumped in saying, in terms of money being a God, right? We cannot. I mean, that will cloud everything. But the system in which we're under attack, from is capitalism, in which we are going to need some kind of economic plan. Africa Bambaataa then responded, nah, I'm not saying that. You're going to need economics. But what I'm saying is selling out with big bold letters. Like, if you feel like whatever I believe, I'm ready to die for it. Now, if I say that, if I feel that the companies haven't gone my way, I'm ready to quit. Let somebody else take that job. Underline. I'm not going to take the money to get me to sell out my people or to sell out hip hop, all for big money or status. I'm for real with this. That's Africa Bambaataa, and it's underlined. I then responded, well, that's my point. If everybody is real with this, then we're going to wind up not being professional because we're not going to take the shit. We're not going to say, let's jerk this artist because he got dreads and this guy got jerry curls. We're going to go with him. To the heart, that shit is whack. I mean, to the heart, that shit is whack. But if you say, I'm pushing these dreads right here, that's what it is, and you get fired. If we all do that, then we gonna wind up being in our nucleus again. And the room erupted into many voices. Now, I mention this because this is the argument that I'm waging at the beginning of our study as well. And you can see in 1994, we're having the same discussion. Africa Bambaataa clearly points out, we're not selling out hip hop or our people for some money. That's not what it is. But I then said, right, that's the point precisely. But if we're not going to engage this industry, we're on the outside of it. They get to do whatever they want. with us because we're too weak. We don't have our own, and we're not part of theirs. So we're just individuals running around. And that's a lot of what hip hop was, and still, well, not still is, but was back then. A lot of us are united now. But back then it was individualism. That's why we had to have this meeting. But you can see here in paragraph 153 that the argument is still the same. Let me read this last part one more time. You know to your heart that this shit is whack. You know it's whack, okay? But if you say, I'm pushing these dreads right here, that's what it is, and you get fired. If we all do that, then we're gonna wind up being in our nucleus again, only amongst ourselves again. And the room erupted into many voices. And then Hakeem Green, the school teacher MC, said, quote, "This is the way you do it." Going back to what Havoc was saying earlier, he was saying that, you walk through parks or whatever, you see statues dedicated to leaders, when in actuality, the motherfucker you looking at really ain't lead shit. He was just the face man. This is Hakeem laying down a strategy. Now you see the artist out on stage. He's the face man. What you need is somebody that's not involved in the politics of music, that's saying, you owe your allegiance to me. You fuck up, you got to answer to me. I then responded saying, so wait a minute. The person who is professional then cannot truthfully say that they are part of hip hop. The room erupted into many voices again. And we began to look closer at the word accountability. And the Zulu Nation chemist biologist said, quote, see, the problem is that we're not all doing it. See, if this side of the room is like, yo, fuck that, you gonna do this, and that side is like, nah, then there's a division that you can drive through. But if we all saying, no, fuck that, we all doing it, then you can't divide. You can't go through that, end quote. And Jacqueline Hines from Hip Hop Incorporated followed up saying, quote, I think we need to go even deeper than that. We have to deal with some sort of spirituality. And this is underlined. This was the first time this was brought into the discussion. Spirituality. If we're talking about building anything, we have to deal with spirituality. This part is underlined. We have to understand what it means when we do something. I thought that was profound. Because she's connecting spirituality. A knowledge of your spirit gives you the ability to know why you're doing what you're doing. A knowledge of your spirit, the inner you, the you, the real you, okay, that gives you the authority and the ability to observe yourself, to be hip to your heart. We have to deal with some sort of spirituality. If we're talking about building anything, we have to deal with spirituality. We have to understand what it means when we do something. Like what this brother said about his job. Now, if you're going to build, what we're really doing is building a society. And part of society, and part of society is what's wrong right now is we have no spirituality. What's part of society is what's wrong right now. We have no spirituality. Now I want to just mention that, you know what? Let's go ahead and highlight this. Let us go ahead and highlight paragraph 158. And for several reasons here. Because again, I'm just making notes here. because we can see something subtle that's happening. When you read the spirit, you're reading subtleness. You got to be able to catch it and pick it up. But what we're looking at here is when we all got together again as a culture. You see, it is the teacher that has called the meeting and is setting the questions and engaging. That's ancient. I'm playing a role. I don't even know that I'm playing the role, but I'm playing it. The role of teacher. And of course I know the role that I'm playing in this thing, but stretch it out a little bit to the unconscious that you cannot know. This is the way it's always been. This is the way the council meetings have always gone down. This is the way the elders have always sat and created civilization. Created civilization. In that, you see the role of the woman. First, I will say the woman. All of these men are arguing over professionalism, this, that, and the other. Can we be a professional? Selling out. It was a woman who stood forward and said, but what about the spirit? If you want to build anything, it's the spirit. And she's not speaking in a docile, subservient voice. She's challenging everybody in the room. We already read her opening remarks. We already read that. She's challenging everybody in the room. Okay? Everybody in the room getting challenged. So all the men are respecting her too. You don't hear nobody disrespecting her. You hear responses to the questions. You hear engagement in the conversation, but no disrespect. This woman got the power. She got the floor. That's the first thing I want to point out. The Cindy, the GSIMONE, the woman in hip hop. That is something that when you're building culture and even telling the story, we saw also during Hip Hop Appreciation Week, how many times the founders, the originators, pioneers, how many times they referred to their mother and their sister. My mother was dancing. That made me a b-boy. My mother said, put a record song while I play this card game. Made me a DJ. My sister said, can you DJ for my party? This is the subtleness that you need to see in the history of the development of your culture. This is the subtleness. I look at it here because the first time we start talking about hip hop as spirituality in a group is this woman named Jacqueline Hine, who also claims to have the first hip hop museum, and her organization is called Hip Hop Incorporated. And so I'm gonna read it one more time. And Jacqueline Hines from Hip Hop Incorporated followed up saying, I think we need to go even deeper than that. We have to deal with some sort of spirituality. If we're talking about building anything, we have to deal with spirituality. We have to understand what it means when we do something, like what this brother said about his job. Now, if we're gonna build, if we're gonna build, what we're really doing is building a society. And part of society is what's wrong right now is we have no spirituality. I want to emphasize that last part real quick, where it says what we're really doing is building a society. Underline that. Underline that. What we're really doing is building a society. And this is the key words. These are the key words when you talk about being an architect of a culture. These are the key words. These are the key statements at the key moment. What we're really doing is building a society. And part of society is what's wrong right now is we have no spirituality. Continuing. So we have to bring spirituality back in effect. This is what's underlined. And once you have spirituality and you can come strong within yourself, then you can define what is going to happen in your life. It's already underlined. Yes, you may have lost the best job you ever had because you demanded to hear rap music on your radio, but your spirituality will keep you strong and keep you moving, and you know things will only get better. That is a strong, right there, that's a sermon. She just preached a sermon, right? An Eric sermon right there. Right there. Look at that. So we have to bring spirituality back in effect. And once you have spirituality and you can come strong within yourself, then you can define what is going to happen in your life. Yes, you may have lost the best job you ever had because you demanded to hear rap music on your radio. And this was a time when rap music was scarce on the radio too, by the way. But your spirituality will keep you strong and keep you moving, and you know things will only get better. End quote. After a short debate with everyone throwing in ideas and many voices speaking at the same time, Africa Bambaataa again called the meeting to order by saying, we need a structured, disciplined order. Disciplined order. We need a structured, disciplined order. Africa Bambaataa continued. Whether you have professionalism, whether you don't have it, it still comes all under one roof that's getting it all together under a union to put out ideas that have structure, that have people accountable, which is underlined. And let them know that if they fuck up, they out the door and the next one is in. You got to have a whole accountable, disciplined order. And we got to put our money where our mouth is and be doers of the words. One thing we can learn from watching the Nation of Islam is getting up and doing something for self. And that's what it all bows down to. That we got to get up and do something for self. Now, I just want to stop here real quick. That's a very conservative point of view. Do for self. Stop asking. Stop being the victim. Stop being, do for self. But I want to just show you hip hop's early ideas of itself. Now, this is Africa Bambaataa talking, but this is Garvey talking. This is Booker T. Washington talking. This is the Republican platform also talking. This is the conservative platform. Do for oneself. Don't rely on government. Or less reliance on government, more reliance on self. Oh, plus I also want to read this part one more time. You have to have a whole accountable, disciplined order. And we got to put our money where our mouth is and be doers of the word, of the words. Now, I mention that because Africa Bambaataa was the leader of a few organizations, I don't want to say gangs, but organizations like the Black Spades, like the organization, like Zulu Nation. Africa Bambaataa knows what it takes to put people together, to organize people into a fighting unit. That's a talent. That's a talent. That's not something to be taken lightly, and every group don't have that. A general. Somebody who knows how to put an army together, have them fight on a culture's behalf. Africa Bambaataa already achieved that with Zulu Nation and also with other organizations before Zulu Nation. In fact, he learned the skill and cut his teeth on these other organizations and brought that skill to Zulu Nation. He's bringing that same expertise into this meeting right here. And what is it? You got to have a whole accountable, disciplined order. That's what the gospel of hip hop is, the temple of hip hop. This is our whole disciplined order. We got to put our money where our mouth is.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, yes.
I was actually, or because of that, I was gonna, if I may so, ask if that could be a highlight, that paragraph 161.
Let's do it. But explain why.
Because it's the temple of hip hop, and the fact of, if he's calling for a disciplined order, it shows that there wasn't a disciplined order, that his organizations were organized in the fashion that they were organized, but I believe he was seeing and noticing the fact that they were not disciplined, and that it was difficult for him to hold people accountable within his organizations. But this is where we need to pick up and make sure that we don't fall victim to the same history.
Then there it is. Let me add to that and clarify that too. Let us go ahead and highlight 161 and 162. Let's highlight 161 and 162. Let me also tweak what you're saying a little bit. There is also the notion that that Zulu Nation was already a disciplined order unto itself, and that Africa Bambaataa was speaking to us, who in the meeting are disorganized, undisciplined. That was, I think, the feeling. And I say I think because what you're saying is absolutely correct. This is the first time, like if Zulu Nation already was doing this, then we would not have to have this meeting. If this was their platform, we would not have to have this meeting. When I called for Africa Bambaataa to come, he would have said, we're already doing this here at Zulu Nation. But what it was that we called for Zulu Nation to be part of this, like we did at the United Nations. We called for them to be part of this. So they could be critiquing us and our, they could be critiquing the situation that they found themselves in, not necessarily saying that they themselves were not already a disciplined order unto themselves.
Well, the reason why I say that is because there are many of the other people in there were part of Zulu Nation. The majority of the people in in that meeting, if I'm not mistaken, are part of Zulu Nation, or at least were claiming it at that time.
Well, wait a minute, not the majority. No, Zulu Nation had about 10 people there. And you want to hear something funny? Kenny, my brother, was sitting with Zulu Nation, and he's not Zulu Nation. But he knows Bam and everybody, so he's sitting there. Okay. That's just some cultural tweak. But you're right. I'll leave it at that.
No doubt. Well, it would just make me wonder why he didn't just say, all y'all need to join the Zulu Nation and let's get it popping.
Because that wasn't the platform of Zulu Nation at the time. That wasn't the platform. This was a brand new idea. Hip hop as a society, as a culture, a book being written. All of this. Harry Allen saying, do you think we need to document this? He's asking the question, and then raise your hand if you think this needs to happen, so on. These are new ideas. So in one breath, I will say, yes, underline, highlight these two paragraphs, because what you're saying is valid. It is valid. In a way, Africa Bambaataa called for the temple of hip hop as a disciplined order, as a structured, disciplined order. In a way, he called for that. But right, Zulu Nation was already that, but this was not their platform. They had a different platform. BAM was trying to unionize rappers at the time.
No doubt.
To get health care and legal defense and get your royalties. And you'll notice even within this that BAM is talking about how artists are getting ripped off and how much money is Wu-Tang, how much money is the money that Wu-Tang is making, how much of it is really going back to Wu-Tang, how much of it is, these were the examples of artists not understanding the mechanical royalties, their publishing, what a contract means. This was the platform of Zulu Nation back then. We actually documented it within the Gospel Hill. It wasn't. It's not the point. You're bringing this up now, but it is documented that was more their platform. Their platform was rappers are getting ripped off, and this industry has been ripping us off for years. It's time for us to unionize, get some legal defense, get some health care, and approach these companies like we're supposed to. That was Zulu Nation's platform during this time. The Temple of Hip Hop, which wasn't the Temple of Hip Hop at the time, we were sort of just operating. Well, really, the company that put this together was Front Page Entertainment, which was a company Simone started, record label, booking agency, this kind of thing. And Harry Allen, I'm just giving you some background. Harry Allen called me and said, can I put together the Rhythm Cultural Institute's conference so that he can announce this, that, and the other? And I said, great, because I was thinking about doing a cultural conference to announce this book. And I needed the permission. So we got together and it became the meeting of the minds, which was really the meeting of KRS and Harry Allen's mind. But when everybody got in the room, it became the meeting of the minds, and this is what it was. And then you see on the film how it then flowered out and turned out to be. This was a new concept. This was a new idea. And everybody also, and let me also say, people were already doing it. Like, you weren't really doing this, okay? You weren't doing this. But like Jacqueline Hines said, I already had the museum. Harry Allen was already thinking about an electronic
archive.
Some kind of an electronic archive for hip hop. These are already thinking. BAM is already talking about, he's saying a disciplined, structured order because he's coming out of Zulu Nation and other previous organizations from there. But what makes this meeting important and significant is that this is the first time we all got together. This is the first time we sat down and said, this explicitly is what we're doing. We're building hip hop's culture. We're going to preserve the culture. How do you build society? How do we look at us? Can you be a professional and be hip hop? Can you do? And that was a new platform in '94, in the mid '90s. That was a brand new platform that was brought. 2 years later, we would establish the Temple of Hip Hop based on this, based on this meeting and what hip hop said it needed. Look, spirituality, disciplined order. Put your money where your mouth is. I'm trying to put a book out. This kind of thing. Well, all of it culminated into the Temple of Hip Hop. All of it. Everything that was mentioned here, we did the word. As Africa Bambaataa says here, look at it. We got to put our money where our mouth is and be doers of the words. That was Hip Hop Appreciation Week. We manifest that entire sentence right there. And I'm saying I don't know how many other people did that. As an organization, I don't see any organizations really doing this, putting the money where their mouth is and being doers of their own words.
That's right.
So there it is. There it is. Let me read this 162 one more time. Coming off the end of this, we highlight 161 and 162. And we got to put our money where our mouth is and be doers of the words. One thing we can learn from watching the Nation of Islam is getting up and doing something for self. And that's what it all bows down to, that we got to get up and do something for self. Highlight that. Let me get the AC on, please. Get up and do something for self. Right now, hip hop belongs to other people. And notice the spelling of hip hop. Right now, hip hop belongs to other people, and we got to take it back and get to the one sitting on the higher top that got dough. Come on and sit down. Somehow, basketball stars, other professionalism, because that's the only thing we have is our artists. We don't control the agencies that book us, just like we don't control where we live at. And Zulu Nation chemist biologists say, and the Zulu Nation chemist biologists say, but the ironic thing is without us, they don't have shit. That's the whole bottom line. Harry Allen then said, but the bigger irony is that they do have us. The chemist replied, they have some of us. Harry Allen responded, they have most of us. Then an activist artist said, quote, yo, we got to keep it real. I know everybody's willing to die for the cause and all that, but I'm going to be dead honest, okay? Cool, hurt, bam. Y'all from a dying breed of brothers out here called I don't give a fuck and I'm going for mine. That unity is dead, okay? Because of infiltration. And that's why when they say, about the sellout is only a sellout if his mind is warped to that extent. Okay, right now, brothers in here is dealing with ESP, extra self-preservation. If it comes to your baby about to starve and shit, or you down for the cause, fuck that. Your child got to eat. Listen to this too, by the way. I want to point this out. These are transcriptions. And again, if you don't know the culture, you don't know what's being said. Let me hit you with this real quick. So we got to realize, we got to keep it real. I mean, I'm down to go for mine to the highest. But when you feel, I'm sorry. Hold on, that was the next line. Okay, that unity is dead. Okay, because of infiltration. And that's why when they say about the sellout is a sellout if his mind is warped to that extent. Okay, right now, brothers in here is dealing about ESP, extra self-preservation. If it comes down to your baby about to starve, that part. If it comes down to your baby about to starve, okay, and look at this. If it comes down to your baby about to starve and shit. Now, if you say the baby is starving but defecating, we know the babies, they doo-doo and they pamper and this kind of thing. So if you just reading this, you're going to say, if it comes to your baby about to starve and shit, that's like, that'll have people 100 years from now scratching their head. How does the baby starve and shit? If you're starving, you have nothing to shit out. You have nothing. Yeah. But if you don't know the culture, you don't know what in shit means. All the things about to starve and be sick and be miserable and be this, that, and the other. To starve and shit. The end shit is all this other stuff that comes with starvation. If you don't know that, you're bugging right now. Or you're bugging 100 years from now. I just wanted to point that out, so I'm going to continue reading. Okay, if it comes to your baby about to starve and shit, or you down for the cause, fuck that. Your child got to eat. And that's how the mentality is. So we got to realize we got to keep it real. I mean, I'm down to go for mine to the highest. But when you feel you're going to die in a cause by yourself, you're going to get shot. Bow. Well, nigga stood for his, nigga out. That's dead, man. And then Crazy Legs said, quote, a lot of brothers ain't selling out hip-hop because you can't sell out what you was never down with. Now, what they're basically doing is selling their own souls. Woo! That's what they're doing, because most of the brothers in the industry were never down with hip-hop culture. Okay, so they don't even understand how to use it for the community because they're worried about their pockets. And then hip-hop activist X-Man said, let me interject this one thing, because I think for the most part, we've been dancing around the issue for real. And the issue when it comes down to it is, how do we acquire and maintain power? Because that's what it comes down to. Let me say a couple of things. In this professionalism piece, we don't want to confuse professionalism with white collarism, because those are two different and separate things. Here's the underline. Professionalism means one that is proficient in a particular area and accepted by their peers. You see what I'm saying? So a doctor just can't go out and claim that he's a doctor. He has to go through a mental learning process and then still be accepted by his peers. And when we develop that kind of professionalism, it's going to weed out all the fakers anyway. The second thing. Oh, wait a minute. Stop here. Now, he didn't go ahead and say this, but what he's talking about is an accreditation, validation. Look at this. So a doctor just can't go out and claim that he's a doctor. He has to go through a mental learning process and then still be approved by his peers. You got to learn medicine, and then other doctors got to say, yeah, he know, or she know, accepted by his peers. And when we develop that kind of professionalism, it's going to weed out all the fakers anyway. That, again, is the temple of hip-hop. Again, the reason for it. The second thing, underlined, we do need to come to a definition of hip-hop that needs to be distributed. We need to come to a collective decision on what hip-hop is and define it in a way that gives some leeway. In other words, don't be so focused, don't be so narrow that you define everybody out of it, but define it within a context that people who are down with it can fit into it in some way, shape, or form. I like to highlight that. That's paragraph 171. Because again, this is the temple of hip hop right here. The second thing we need to do is come to a definition of hip hop that needs to be distributed. We need to come to a collective decision on what hip hop is. Did you hear this? You know, this is what it is, because it wasn't defined. And define it in a way that gives some leeway. In other words, don't be so focused, don't be so narrow that you define everybody out of it, but define it in a context that people who are down with it can fit into it in some way, shape, or form. This is from here we expanded to the 9 elements. It was this understanding that brought us over to expanding hip hop from 4 core elements to Zulu Nation's 6 elements to our 9 elements. And let me just run that down to you. The first 4 core elements, which everybody always knew, was breaking, MCing, graffiti, or DJing, but nobody codified it. Zulu Nation codified it by saying breaking, MCing, graffiti, or DJing, knowledge, and overstanding. That was the 6 elements of Zulu Nation. That's what they were pushing. And so in a lot of ways, you could say hip hop was defined in Zulu Nation. It was already defined as breaking, MCing, graffiti, or DJing, knowledge, and overstanding. But then after this meeting, where we're trying to create society now, we're going to include everybody's thought now into this more collective thought. We say that right, but define it within a context that people who are down with it can fit into it some way, shape, or form. That's when we go from breaking MC and graffiti or DJing, knowledge and understanding, to breaking MC and graffiti or DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. This includes the rest of our culture. Our culture, hip hop, is not just dancers, rappers, graffiti writers, and DJs. That's not the whole culture. Even knowledge and understanding is not the whole culture. The whole culture is the 9 elements I just said to you. And some will even debate and say that's not even the whole culture. But this 9 elements answers this: to not define hip hop in such narrow ways that you define everybody out of it, but define it in broad terms, yet defined, but in broad terms where everybody can get down in some shape, form, or fashion. If you just practice street knowledge, you can say, I'm down with hip hop. If you master the street language, you can say, I'm down with hip hop. If you are a promoter dedicated to the culture, I don't rap, I pay rappers. I don't DJ, I pay DJs. I do concerts. You can say, I'm down with hip hop too. And you are. Without them, without the promoter, how the hell, what are we doing? Okay. But people, when they discuss hip hop, they don't discuss the promoters. They don't discuss the security. They don't discuss the engineers. And I mean the hip hop engineers, not just an engineer doing a rap album or a live concert. No, they were real hip hop engineers like DJ Doc, Naughty Kato, forget the dudes that did Eric B. and Rakim's albums and Kane's albums. These were classic engineers that were hip hop and gave that sound. These are not being discussed. These are not, we're just hearing about the rapper. And that's it. Maybe a DJ, and then the top selling rapper. That's it. So you gotta, put that to the side and really get down with the knowledge of your culture for real. So 171 is highlight because from here we get the 9 elements. And the last thing is that we can't talk about power because what I don't want to and the last thing is that we can't talk about power because what I don't want to see, because I'll just tell you what I don't want to see, underline, I don't want to see the archive that has all of the history of hip hop, but in the streets, it's not reflective of what went into that institution. Woo! This is the Universal Hip Hop Museum. I don't want to see that archive that has all of the history of hip hop, but in the street, it's not reflective of what went into that institution. On the street, it's not, you got a big building and so on, but the street, it don't reflect what's going on around. And we don't want hip hop or anything else to go the way of the dodo in the street, even though you have an archive that's sitting there. And the archive idea is the first step to that preservation. The last thing is that, underline, we can't even talk about power in hip hop as if it is divorced from power and organization of young people. He then got right back on what Daddy-O was saying. It's about these young people. TC Islam, it's about these young people. Now X-Men. We can't talk about it because you can't play ball with one hand. I mean, you can try, and some people are good. But but you will never be as effective as being able to use both hands. You'll never be as effective. Underline. So if we're talking about serious, a political move, a social move, an economic move, then hip hop as an industry, as a forum, needs to also be about the political and economic and social organization of our people. That's all underlined. If it's not about that, it's talking yin yang. That's it. Applause. Let's go ahead and highlight that. We're highlighting only 175. We're highlighting 175 because this is the mission. Somebody asked me, like, what is the point? What is it? So if we're talking about serious, a political move, a social move, an economic move, then hip hop as an industry, not as culture, as the industry, and notice the spelling on hip hop, as an industry, as a forum, needs to also be about the political and economic and social organization of our people. If it's not about that, it's talking yin yang. That's it. Applause. Now, when X-Men says the social organization, political organization, economic organization of our people, I think he was talking about black people. That's what I think, because that's the aura that he was coming from. And I want to say that because it's a double two-edged sword here. I think he was talking about black people when he says our people. I think he was talking about black people. That was the mood of 1994. It was not only, but there was majority black people in the room, black and Latino people in the room. Although a white woman did organize the event, a woman named Hetty Burleson, who was Simone's assistant, who Simone sent to the event to organize, was indeed a white woman. Shout out to Hetty Burleson and a friend as well. But she was the only one. Actually, no, somebody from Canada was there as well. White people were there. White women were there. No white men, I don't think, but white women were there. I got to go back and verify that. But I'm just giving you the racial makeup of the place, black, Latino, white. That was who was in the room. Majority black, then Latino, then white. I'm mentioning this because, like I said, I think he was talking about black folk. So if we stop there, let's just say, based on what we know is going on in the United States, hip hop as an industry, as a music industry, as a work, as a forum, as this thing, should be concerned with the plight of black people. Don't matter what race you are, what color, what station in life, don't matter. As an industry, hip hop should be concerned with African Americans. But going deeper into the philosophy of the temple, this can also be talked about as our people. Because X-Man knows damn well that you can't judge no book by its cover. So he's not talking blanketly black people. No, those serious about the struggle, first of all. But organization of our people, as far as the temple is concerned, that includes anybody who is hip hop. Anybody who is hip hop is our people. So you could teach this in two different ways if you want to. And I'm not sure. I got to ask X-Man what he was talking about. If you see him and run into him, ask him, what did you mean, black people or hip hop people? And then the father of hip hop, Cool DJ Herc, spoke saying, yo, check this out. Right now, the bottom line is about money. All right? Money going here, and here, and underline. It ain't concentrated in one place for hip hop to build this. This is Cool Herc talking, by the way. This is Cool Herc. Now I want to drop some knowledge of it's not, it's I don't know. It's a little tidbit, and I don't want to get up and go get it. Maybe I'll bring it next week. But I was going through my boxes, and I pulled out the sign-in sheet for this meeting. Okay, the sign-in sheet. Everybody's signatures on this sheet. Hurt, Bam, Crazy Legs, Theodore, everybody, X-Men, everybody who's there is signed. Their actual signatures are on this sheet. On the sheet, Kool Herc signs the sheet not as the father of hip-hop, but as the godfather of hip-hop. I thought that was interesting. In 1994, again, he wasn't called the father of hip-hop. He wasn't looked at like that. If you knew, you knew. If you didn't know, you didn't know. Kool Herc is the father of hip-hop is largely because of us, Grandmaster Caz and Zulu Nation sang. I just mentioned that. He called himself the Godfather. Now, the Godfather of hip-hop is what Africa Bambaataa is called. And the father of hip-hop, the recognized father of hip-hop, is what Kool DJ Herc is called. But on the sign-in sheet for this meeting, Kool Herc called himself the Godfather of hip-hop, and Africa Bambaataa didn't put anything. He just said Africa Bambaataa. Just something to think about. Now, and then the father of hip-hop, Kool DJ Herc, spoke, saying, yo, check this out. Right now, the bottom line is about money. All right? Money going here, 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 and here. And it ain't concentrated in one place for hip-hop to build this. Continuing to underline. We need somewhere a hip-hop complex. And by the way, we're going to underline this. We're going to do it now. We're going to highlight 177 and 178. 177 and 178. And here's why. We need somewhere, a hip-hop complex itself, a large place that every artist who comes to New York, who's somebody, will have to come through there and perform. And that money goes somewhere for us for whatever we want to do with it. It's about money. This is the father of hip-hop talking. This is it right here. It's about money and what hip-hop's money can do for community and for us political-wise. It's a force. It just hasn't been harnessed yet. All right? And we trying to bring that shit under one fucking roof. That's all it is. We need somewhere that is hip-hop with a big fucking parking lot. So the police ain't gonna come on horseback and chase us out of every fucking place where you can't get in. Highlight that whole piece. 77 and 78. This is the feelings, the intent of the founder of hip-hop itself, the father of hip, Kool DJ Herc. This is his intent. He said, look, it's about this money, okay? And keep in mind, he clarified himself. He's not talking about money in a greed sense. He's there in front of Africa Bambaataa, who just said, you can't be no slave to no money. He's there in front of Jacqueline Hines, who just said it's about spirituality, really? But then Herc came right back around and said, no, wait a minute. It's about money. It's about money and what hip-hop's money can do for community and for us political-wise. Notice how you separate that. Hip-hop for community. Now, he didn't say money for hip-hop's community. He said what hip-hop's money can do for community and what it can do politically for us. This is Kool Herc laying it down. There got to be a place that in California, West Side, East Coast, West, East Coast, West Coast, got to have a fucking complex. And whoever making money off, and this is underlined, whoever making money off of hip hop got to be in that place. Otherwise, they can't go nowhere. That's how it's got to be. End quote. This meeting continued on for several more hours. However, at the conclusion of this groundbreaking meeting, it was clear to all that hip hop was more than just some good music and that it was time to organize culturally. It was here and at this time that I began gathering the notes, documents, and other inspirational materials to create a solid strategy toward what we said as a community, what we said. Notice how I'm capitalizing we. What we said as a community, we wanted for ourselves as a group. Highlight 182. Highlight 182. This is it right here. This is it. This is where we began to seriously approach hip hop as an international culture. And it was here that we set our cultural direction as a unique, self-conscious group of people. This is what we as a temple for hip hop are loyal to. I'm sorry, you're getting 83 too. I didn't see 83. It's 82 and 83. Loyal to. There have been numerous other follow-up hip-hop meetings, conferences, and summits since our 1994 meeting. However, the intentions of this first meeting are what the Temple of Hip-Hop remains most loyal to. Did you hear that? We are not sitting here making up stuff or creating an institution that only follows my thoughts. So KRS-ONE established the Temple of Hip-Hop, so we all have to think like KRS-ONE. No, sorry. That is the antithesis of the Temple of Hip-Hop. As you can see, this is where I'm guiding. This is why the temple exists, why the gospel exists, and why we are doing what we are doing. Sure, I've interjected my views. My knowledge is all through the gospel of hip-hop, but not only mine. All of hip-hop's basic intent is in this book, The Gospel of Hip-Hop. All of it. All of it. Did you hear the word all? People don't like to use the word all. Because if it can't be all, no. This is all. Whoever's not in this book did not show up. And then you got to ask yourself, you know, a lot of people claiming today, I was there, I did this, I did. Well, where were you? This meeting was citywide, national, called everybody. The UN, national, all of my lectures. Where were you? It's only now that dudes are coming into consciousness that they're now saying, yeah, wait a minute. I did do this. I did do that. And of course, the Temple of Hip Hop has an open door. Come on in. Learn of your culture now. Learn of who you really are now. You know, we got to teach the founders too. They don't know who they are. Some of you saw that this weekend. Last week. Continuing. These paragraphs are direct, unedited transcriptions as to some of what was argued at our 1994 Meeting of the Minds Conference. The underlined sections of this transcription are the direct influences and intentions of our hip-hop preservation movement. Study carefully, and not only use this piece of unedited history as an accurate reference for true hip-hop scholarship and activism, but through meditation and or visualization, place yourself in the meeting as a citizen of hip-hop culture. What would you have said? What would you have suggested? After such a meeting, what would you have done? This particular transcription is very important to the awareness of the truly committed hip-hop activists. This is a major part of what guides the Temple of Hip-Hop, and all true hip-hop is seeking the advice, seeking to advance the culture of hip-hop. The time for talk and no action is over. The time for complaining with no plan of action has ceased. If we are truly serious about freedom, justice, and equality under just laws, it's time we start acting like the community we keep begging America to be. America has its own problems, as do we. Therefore, let us get serious about our own future as hip hoppers. Let us go down in history as the greatest urban movement of all time. Let us mature and rise to the cultural heritage that we have been born into. Let us as hip hoppers fulfill the dream of our parents. This is the meaning of our movement. Go ahead and highlight 188. Highlight 188. And the reason is because it says at the end, this is the meaning of our movement. Anytime you're talking about the meaning of something, or we highlight that. Yes, there are other movements of worthy cause, even worthy of more immediate attention, but hip hop's preservation is what God has given to us as our task. Hip hop is our burden. In history, this is what future generations will know our moves meant. Play on words, which is what our moves meant. Our moves for the preservation and further development of hip hop include a full service hip hop city. And it is this ultimate vision that defines the meaning of our moves today, our movement. This is the meaning of why we move. Go ahead and highlight 190 as well. But we also know that revolution only benefits those who participate in it. New ideas and revolutionary movements can be preached from every street corner in the world. But if the listener is still unable to participate in the actualization of such ideas and movements, then such talk is only entertainment. This is what hip hop has been experiencing ever since our famous Meeting of the Minds conference in 1994. Now get this. Even though many of us have spoken strongly and accurately about the challenges facing our hip hop community, very few have actually organized themselves against such challenges. And even worse, when people like myself step up to begin the process of organization, fear, doubt, and distrust from our own people cripple our plans before we could even begin. I will call no names here because this gospel is a historical document that can have lasting effects upon the children of such saboteurs. Everyone should be given time to mature past their own fears. However, in my time, your past, I've been criticized as being a false prophet, cult leader, antichrist, of wanting to own hip hop, and even as being a member of the Illuminati. But all of these criticisms and critics have fallen to the wayside, and I am only doing what we all said we wanted done. Now imagine I wrote that, this was published in 2009. And this particular thing's probably written 2000 now, 2001, somewhere around there. This is what I'm going through. When I declared hip hop is a religion. Dude's freaked out. What is he saying? He's the Messiah. He's a cult leader. He did it. No. Jacqueline Hines said, if we're going to build a society, we're going to need spirituality. Last paragraph. Those who are serious about hip hop's preservation, and you're highlighting this. This is a highlight. Last paragraph. Highlight paragraph 194. Those who are serious about hip hop's preservation and further development have taken the vow, I am hip hop, and have united with others to form the temple of hip hop, which is the actualization of our goals and collective vision. That's what the temple is. The actualization of our goals and vision. We have a plan and we will fulfill it. In fact, in your time, my future. Look at this. We have already fulfilled it. This is the meaning of our movement. I want to say it one more time. I want to say, because when this was written, it wasn't fulfilled. okay, when this was written, it wasn't fulfilled yet. This is in the early 2000s. This is after the UN even. This part is being written. Those who are serious about the temple, those who are serious about hip hop's preservation and further development have taken the vow, I am hip hop, and have united with others to form the temple of hip hop, which is the actualization of our goals and collective vision. We have a plan and we will fulfill it. In fact, in your time, which at that point was my future, which is now, even further, but now, this is 10 years later, right? My future. We have already fulfilled it. This is the meaning of our movement. Victory over the streets. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just gotten through the movement. When we return next week, we're going to be discussing the 13th overstanding, which is the hip hop activists. Because after you get the movement in you, and now that you understand what the movement is, and look at this too, look at what's going on. We read the movement, and in the reading of the movement, which took us a minute to read, in the reading of the movement, we actually joined the movement itself in New York and moved hip hop literally. You engaged the founders, you fed them. You engaged the hip hop museum and gained knowledge. Your crystal should be shining right now. That crystal means something right now. The energy that's on it defines this whole moment. The whole moment. So, congratulations, we got through the movement. We still have more to read, but I hope you understand what our movement is. What the movement is. I hope you understand, and you've read, and you've seen, and you've heard. Join me next week. I will return, and we'll be talking about the activists, which again is a nice piece, because now that you've learned the movement, now what does it mean to go out and spread this word? What does it mean to go out now and actually protect hip hop for real now? For real. What does it mean? What does it really mean? We're going to get into that next week. I want to thank all of you again for joining us again, another Sunday down. This is what we've been doing. This is what we do with our time. Nobody can tell us nothing. We are the Temple of Hip Hop, and we're doing the work. We're doing the work. With that, I'm going to be out. GSIMONE is out. She's over here chilling. And then peace, what? Say it.
Peace, peace.
Peace, peace. And I'm going to turn this over to Son One for closing remarks. Thanks, KRS-ONE. I'm out. In fact, you know what I'll do is, because I can see that Son One is getting organized. What I'll do is just shout out real quick the California trip that I'm having. I was talking about going to California, and I don't know what route I'm going to actually take. Son One, whenever you appear there, let me know. The California trip. I'm going to be in LA. Well, actually, you know what? That's why I'm stumbling right now, because I really need to get my schedule. But I'm going to be in Oakland and then Los Angeles. And I think I'm going to be in Los Angeles earlier, though. And so I was thinking about doing a lecture, what we call a seminar, out in Los Angeles, out in California. You know how we do that. We go to Malibu Beach, we eat at Gladstone's, we have our meetings and stuff like that. I'm thinking about having a birthday party August 20th in California. Oh, you know what? Alert Son One is as well. I don't think he's at his thing. And oh, okay, wait, he just came there. I was just talking about California. That's what I was gonna say. When are the two shows in Cali? Oakland.
The 25th of June and the 26th is Garden Grove, California.
Right. So the 25th is Oakland, California, and the 26th is Garden Grove, California, basically LA. Garden Grove, California, back to back. I'm going to be in LA earlier, though, a couple of days earlier. This may culminate into a lecture or some kind of Temple of Hip Hop event in California. We're going to talk it up further. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. There's no specific reason we're doing this. It's just I'm in Cali and I'm turning it up. And so there it is. So just mark that down. I'm also going to be in New York. Let me get the dates for New York.
June 3rd to the 8th.
No, it's June 3rd, and then Massachusetts is
the 9th.
Is the 9th, right? So,
excuse
June
me,
3rd,
real quick about the June 3rd. The flyers going around say June 4th.
No, you said you're going to be in New York. You're going to be there June 3rd. The show is June 4th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, Simone's talking about when we're going to be there.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's get that clear. I may arrive June, well, not may, I will arrive in Brooklyn June 3rd. But the Brooklyn show is June 4th, and the Massachusetts, it's like a weekend retreat that I'm.
Black Music Month celebration.
It's Black Music Month celebration
In Roxbury, Massachusetts.
Black Music Month celebration in Roxbury, Massachusetts. But it's a 3-day event. Correct. Concert, lecture, workshop, panel. I'm running my mouth. 3 days. We're up there and doing that. But from there, I'm shooting over to California. And so I'll be over in Cali a little earlier than the dates that I just mentioned to you. So we'll tweak that. I'm just putting it out right now. So those that want to get prepared and maybe meet us out there, have a good time out there. We will be turning it up in California. We already did the New York thing, and I'm breezing through New York. As a matter of fact, got a show in Brooklyn, so I'm going to do Brooklyn, and then I'm going to run up to Massachusetts and really spend most of my time up there. I do have some meetings too, as well. 1520. I'll say this as well. 1520. Sedgwick, when you were there, the building owner, heavy-set dude that was walking around with a sauce. He was making us a sauce. Well, he owns the building. Okay, 1520. Cool guy. Always supportive of hip hop. He was blown away. Okay, for those that didn't attend Hip Hop Appreciation Week in New York, we met at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the community center itself. We organized ourselves where we called up and had them open the community center for us to have our Hip Hop Appreciation celebration right there. And so they did. And when they opened it up, I brought Grandmaster Kaz through to teach the Temple of Hip Hop, his teachings are actually on hip hop, and to take questions. So we're there in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the actual community center where Herc starts, right there. And the building owner was blown away. We did get down. We taught. Knowledge was being passed. Real questions were being asked. And so not only that, there was an older woman there as well who was like the building manager, but she was sent by the builder. There's another woman named Gloria who is the actual building manager. This woman was assistant to Gloria, but she had to be like 90 years old, okay? She was there as like the overseer of the building. And we was moving, so the way we was moving, she just became part of hip hop. And it was dope to have the elder there. She enjoyed it.
She gave me that cardboard to fan Kaz.
She gave up the cardboard. It was hot inside 1520. It was Mama that came with her.
Which I now have, and everybody else is sleeping. I picked that cardboard right up and put it in my bag. Oh yes, I have the cardboard.
The
And
cardboard fit.
yes, indeed, and that lady needs to be interviewed. Pascal was speaking to her. She spoke of essentially raising Cool Herc, or
Right.
one of the people in the place said no. She's like, I helped raise them all up from little kids, and she had some other choice words, but no, she knows stuff
And that's
and very
who we
like
talking to.
yes,
That's
indeed.
exactly who we need to be talking to. I'm. They want us to come back. Okay, they were thoroughly impressed. So they have to go through their own building stuff. They want to talk to the tenants. I sent a small proposal which said I wanted to put a permanent exhibit in there. This is where the Temple of Hip Hop should be teaching. Our address would be Temple of Hip Hop, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, because we would rent that space from the building itself.
Word.
And they could use the money. We could use the space. And it's all mutual. It's all love. So I'm going to have another meeting when I do the Brooklyn show. I'm going to take another meeting at 1520 and see if they want to really get down with it on a regular basis. And we'll bring the Temple of Hip Hop to the Bronx and to the birthplace on top of that. I'm hoping that they allow us to rent the place out because then we have more autonomy. But, you know, they may want to get down as well. It's a tourist attraction. It's all of that, you know. There that is as well. So that concludes me. There it is. And so I'm out of here. Son One,
Word.
it's on you. So what
Yeah.
you want to do?
Listen, I want to make moves like a movement. You know how we do as we present. As the God passes the mic, I gotta do it right. As you see, I'm sitting here messing with the light as it goes around, and I hear the sound of me now. Peace and much love to you all. Let me take this off so I can actually hear me better. So that concludes the movement. Again, it was a very long, strenuous read, a whole bunch of detail over these past couple of weeks, taking you through the specifics of really what this meeting means even more now than it meant then, especially in reference to the Temple of Hip Hop itself. Um, and those who participated in Hip Hop Appreciation Week, you should know that you're a very or you participated in a very intricate part of the continuous movement. Obviously, the movement is never going to stop. Technically, has no beginning and it will have no end. Uh, Hip hop's movement is forever itself. Knowing that, I know we have our introduction to hip hop that many of you guys received during Hip Hop Appreciation Week after receiving your certificate of becoming a certified true hip hopper. Study, 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 study good, study hard and study good, because or all of this or that plus our gospel of hip hop. It's a wealth of knowledge to know the value of what you actually have access to and what you have available to you is going to be very important uh, to the developing of yourself within hip hop, especially with the what's going to come next. And that's what you have to know and understand is that a lot is going to come next where you think that God can't do no more. or God has already done the greatest, and God has already done the greatest. But I promise you, uh, it's going to get better. It's going to get more intense. Um, Hip hop and its relationship with God is really what you're gonna see moving. Um, and it's very important that you understand it in that way. That I had an epiphany. I think it was this morning, where I was like, it's I love hip hop, okay? Like love, sincere care, like insane with it. I love hip hop. And as I look back from all interactions with hip hop, from the beginning of everything I've ever done with hip hop, when it was just me and my boys, to linking up with the teacher, to becoming a part of the Temple of Hip Hop, to becoming a minister of the Temple of Hip Hop, the epiphany was that I love hip hop and hip hop loves me. Clearly. And and I'm not saying this to I want you to realize the same thing about yourself. That's what's most important to for from what I'm saying, is that clearly hip hop loves me. Clearly hip hop loves the teacher. Um in every manifestation of our lives, it's a clear love that is favoring us. So it's to say that, understand, if you are a part of hip hop appreciation weekend, even those who couldn't make it, or those who are still very, very serious about their studies, recognize the love. Um the love that you really have. Or the love, or that's our gospel starts off with the love. Well, it starts off with a new covenant, right? And then what we approach in the love that God has for us, hip hop, the love that hip hop has for us. And it's like, nah, to really, really, really realize what it is. As you had an incredible experience in the movement. The movement was happening in Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And you should be able to most see it where we went to the Universal Hip Hop Museum. That's where you should see it. But now step outside of that. The very teaching of students, future teachers of hip hop, is a part and a very intricate part of hip hop's forward progression and movement. You got to realize what it is. And that's where, or I'll tell you specifically what made me see, and I should see this every day. But no, you need certain things to happen in order for your eyes to open, or as the gospel speaks of enlightenment. Enlightenment comes in spurts. It doesn't stay with you constantly. It's like a blast of enlightenment, or acknowledgement of how things really are. But then through going through life, the feeling dissipates in a sense, or you start to get distracted by everything else within your life. But no, to realize, we we had an opportunity and I seized upon it in 1520 while we were in the community center itself. Which, even though, or that wasn't even a promise. And see, and this is the other thing. Or if I'm not mistaken, the way it really went was, within maybe like a day or two before we got permission, they was gonna open up the doors and we was gonna actually go in. Original plan for Sun One was, no, just do it on the grounds. Do it there on the holy ground known as 1600 through 1520 Cedric Avenue. Um, but it was to honor our teacher and Acronologist Minister G. Simone for all that they have done. And to me, how important it was for them to be honored by us, the actual Temple of Hip Hop, not some other institution or organization or award ceremony or nothing. No, be honored by that which you created out of appreciation and during Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Now, in doing so, I didn't think I could get through it. I was ready to pass it off. I had Minister Pascal set up. I was like, dude, you gotta go ahead and read this, that, and the third. Well, wow. When we got there into the actual community center, I thought back, and I thought back to the 40th anniversary of hip hop. And at the 40th anniversary of hip hop, there was a celebration um, in Central Park, if I'm not mistaken, in which whole bunch of different things. I'm trying to make this as short as possible. A whole bunch of things happen, but either way, I end up getting there with Minister Pascal too on top of it to the park. Joey said it. Professor Sanchez is in there. He has 2 awards to give to Cool Herc and Cindy. Now, mind you, and this is so funny because in accordance with where teacher said he signed, this is for you, Joey. So take this in. This is for you, Joey. Um, Joey, or he allowed me to come up. Essentially, Joey and I were supposed to present this award to, or these awards to Cool Herc and Cindy. It happened that it ended up, or Joey said on the microphone, and this is recorded, he called Cool Herc the godfather of hip hop. And Cool Herc almost lost his shit right there on the stage. And it just got crazy for a hot minute, needless to say. Joey ain't no punk. And he's like, yo, what's your problem? But he ends up giving me the words. It has me do it. So the correlation of the fact of even us talking about the movement, this epiphany I'm having, because of this. Hold on. Uh-oh. There it is. Hold on, your mic is muted.
The call sheet. This is the call sheet. And I want to show, I hope you can see it. Do you see it says
Cool Herc, godfather of hip hop. Wow.
This is the call sheet from everything. This is everybody who is there. We got to see. This is why scholarship is important, because even the founders, they going from one thing to another. I'm the father. I'm the godfather. I'm the uncle. I'm the grandmother. I'm the Nope, we got you right here, dude. We got you. We got you right here.
Straight up and down.
I'm out.
Word. Oh, Right. So that being the case, I end up giving these awards to Cool Herc with Joey, obviously, but or I make the announcement, um, and give it to them. So I'm sitting in 1520 thinking about this. I'm like, wait a minute, you did this before, but it was with Cool Herc and Cindy. And it was like, nah, dude, figure it out. You better do it again. If you've been here once, you will be here twice. So I tell you, it hit me and said, nah, go ahead. So we were able to do that. But again, that was me recognizing and realizing the fact that we are in history and the value that we put on these things is really we tell others what the value of things are. It's not the other way around. And that seems to be what a lot of those practicing hip hop have forgotten, that we told everybody what was dope. And because they really weren't dope and didn't know what dope was, we acclimated them to what was dope. And it's still the same way. It's still the same way. So to know what you were actually a part of, and what that said to me is, wait a minute, because everything that happened there, none of that was planned. It wasn't planned for me to give these awards to Cool Herc and Cindy. It wasn't technically planned, or it was by chance we were even able to get these awards, especially as hectic as the week was going for our teacher and Minister Simone. But a bunch of things worked out, even to the point of a dude staying open late because after him reading the awards, it's like, oh no, and he was closed on Saturdays. Mind you, the thing that we were doing wasn't on Saturday. We was at the B-boy joint with the Dynamic Breakers and Pop Master Fable, and we had to skirt out of there real quick and get these awards. And the guy was like, "Oh no, I'll sit here, I'll wait." They were closing, it's not open on the weekends, this, that, and the third. Da, 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 da. Either way, we get it. And because again, it was supposed to get to them, but this activity with hip hop showed me that no, wait a minute, hip hop loves you, and to not, or the most important thing about it is to not disrespect or take advantage of that love that hip hop has for you. It has that love for you because you loved it. Now it loves you. Now return that love back and keep it circulating. So no one understand that, or you may have to really look into yourself and into your story as far as how hip hop loves you, but try to find that in, or maybe it may be starting right now. Some people I know for a fact, they came up thanking me, oh, thank you, son. And it wasn't me. And that's why it was so messed up with them thanking me. Because it's not me. It's something about you that hip hop wants to be here. Hip hop wants you to do something. Hip hop is giving you the opportunity to be a part of it and manifest in it. And if you read your teacher's manual, it really goes through it. It tells you you can't pick it up. You can't. This is not hip hop. You can't. I didn't drink hip hop. I drink water. It's not hip hop. You have to become hip hop, and you'll become it through your love of it, and its love actually returns to you. So to not I don't even want to say beat a dead horse, but to just close. Um, Stay motivated, stay inspired. Um, don't think of it as a competition with another temple member or any other hip hopper or any other hip hop institution. It doesn't work like that. This is a sincere interaction with you and your God. So, knowing that, the best thing for you is to focus on that and allow God's favor to be given to you as well as you do favors for God. All praises due. Peace and much love, everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. We'll see you again next week, Sunday, 12 o'clock. You know what it is. Peace to the goddesses. Peace to the gods.